Welcome to Certified Data Engineer Associate DEA-C01 Practice Exam number 19. You'll get 30 exam-style questions. I will read each question, then give you a 10-second countdown to review the answer choices on screen. Feel free to pause the video if you need longer. After each countdown, I will reveal the correct answer and explanation. Question 1. A data engineer at Tailspin Media needs to configure an AWS Glue ETL job to read from a large JDBC source containing 500 million rows. The job currently runs for over 8 hours because it reads the entire table through a single JDBC connection. How should the data engineer optimize the read performance? Select 1. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option D. Pushdown predicates with hash field or hash partitions options enable Glue to parallelize JDBC reads by creating multiple concurrent connections that each read a subset of the data. The hash field option automatically generates hash-based partitioning on a specified column, while hash partitions specifies the number of parallel reads. This distributes the data retrieval across multiple Spark executors and JDBC connections, dramatically reducing total read time. Job bookmarks enable incremental processing, but do not address the performance of the initial full read or scenarios where all data must be processed. Increasing worker type adds more memory per worker, but does not parallelize the single JDBC connection. Python shell jobs have no Spark engine, and would be significantly slower for processing 500 million rows. Question 2. A data engineer sets up an Oz Glue job to transform and load data from various sources into Amazon Redshift. The engineer needs to store Redshift connection credentials securely, following best practices. Which approach is most secure? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option D. AWS Secrets Manager is specifically designed for managing sensitive credentials, such as database passwords and API keys. It encrypts secrets at rest using KMS, supports automatic rotation policies for database credentials including Redshift, provides fine-grained IAM access control, so only the specific Glue job's IAM role can retrieve the secret, and integrates natively with AWS services. Credentials are retrieved programmatically at runtime and never appear in job definitions or logs. Systems Manager Parameter Store can store encrypted values using secure string parameters, but it lacks the native database credential rotation support and purpose-built credential lifecycle management features of Secrets Manager, making it a less complete solution for database credentials. Passing credentials as job parameters embeds them in the Glue job invocation, where they are visible in CloudTrail logs, the Glue console job history, and potentially in CI/CD pipeline logs, creating significant exposure risk. Storing credentials in a configuration file on S3 means the credentials exist as plaintext or weakly protected data in object storage. Even with bucket policies restricting access, the credentials are not encrypted at the field level and represent a persistent exposure risk if bucket policies are misconfigured. Question 3. A company stores data in Amazon S3 with unpredictable and frequently changing access patterns. They need to optimize storage costs while ensuring millisecond data retrieval. Which strategy is most suitable with the least operational overhead? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option B. S3 intelligent tiering automatically moves objects between the frequent access and infrequent access tiers based on access patterns, without requiring manual rules or monitoring. Objects accessed regularly remain in the frequent access tier. Objects not accessed for 30 days move to the lower cost infrequent access tier. If accessed again, they immediately return to the frequent access tier. Both tiers deliver millisecond latency, satisfying the retrieval requirement. Since access patterns are unpredictable, intelligent tiering continuously adapts without operator intervention. Deep Archive Access Tier within intelligent tiering is intended for data that has not been accessed for 180 days and has retrieval times of 12 hours or more, which violates the millisecond retrieval requirement. S3 Storage Lens provides analytics dashboards and metrics about storage usage, but is an observability tool, not a lifecycle management tool. Transitioning objects based on bucket size thresholds requires custom automation and does not respond to individual object access patterns. Transitioning based on object count similarly ignores access frequency and targets all objects in a bucket uniformly rather than adapting to each object's actual usage. Question 4. A data engineer at Northwind Corp is building a pipeline that uses an Oz Lambda function as an event source mapping consumer for an Amazon Kinesis data stream with 10 shards. The Lambda function processes each record and writes results to DynamoDB. During peak traffic, some records are being processed more than once, and the engineer observes that the iterator age metric is increasing. Which two actions should the engineer take to improve throughput while maintaining ordered processing within each shard? Select 2. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answers are Option A and Option B. Increasing the parallelization factor up to 10 allows Lambda to process multiple batches from the same shard concurrently, directly increasing throughput while still maintaining ordering within each sub-batch. This addresses the increasing iterator age by allowing more parallel processing. Enabling bisect batch on function error automatically splits failing batches in half to isolate problematic records, preventing a single bad record from blocking the entire shard and causing repeated reprocessing of the same batch. Increasing batch size and batching window would increase latency and does not address the core throughput issue. Switching to direct getRecords API calls would remove the managed scaling and error handling benefits of event source mappings. Adding more shards would increase throughput but also increases cost, and the parallelization factor should be tuned first as a more efficient solution. Question 5. Tailspin Logistics has a data warehouse on Amazon Redshift with a large fact table containing 2 billion shipping records and a small dimension table of 500 carrier records. Analysts frequently join these two tables for reporting. The current query performance is poor due to data redistribution during joins. Which combination of distribution strategies should the data engineer implement for these two tables? Select 1. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is Option B. For a large fact table frequently joined with a small dimension table, the optimal strategy is key distribution on the fact table using the join column, carrier id, and all distribution on the small dimension table. All distribution replicates the entire carrier table to every compute node, ensuring that joins are collocated without any data redistribution. Since the carrier table has only 500 records, the storage overhead of all distribution is negligible. Using key distribution on both tables would work, but requires the carrier id to have high cardinality for even distribution across slices, which a 500 record table may not provide. Even distribution on both tables would cause redistribution during every join. Auto distribution may eventually converge on a good strategy, but does not guarantee optimal performance for this specific known access pattern. Question 6. Adatum Retail has an AWS Glue ETL job that processes sales data from an Amazon S3 data lake. The job runs daily and processes data partitioned by date. After several weeks of operation, the team notices the job is reprocessing all historical partitions on each run, significantly increasing costs and runtime. What should the data engineer do to ensure the job processes only new data on each run? Select 1. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is Option C. Glue job bookmarks track previously processed data to prevent reprocessing. For S3 sources, bookmarks track file timestamps and paths. The job.init call at the beginning loads the previous bookmark state, and job.commit at the end saves the updated state after successful processing. This ensures only new or modified data is processed on subsequent runs. Using a Lambda function with DynamoDB to track processed files adds unnecessary complexity when Glue natively provides this functionality through bookmarks. The crawler-recrawl policy controls schema discovery, not data processing scope within ETL jobs. Hard-coded date filters require manual updates and do not handle scenarios where historical data is modified or late-arriving data needs processing. Question 7. Northwind Analytics uses AWS Glue DataBrew to prepare datasets for their machine learning team. The data engineering team receives raw CSV files from multiple vendors with inconsistent column formats, missing values, and duplicate records. The team needs to standardize the data, handle missing values, and remove duplicates before loading the data into Amazon Redshift. The team has no Spark or Python expertise. Which approach should the team use to meet these requirements with the least operational overhead? Select 1. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option C. AWS Glue DataBrew provides a visual, no-code interface with over 250 built-in transformations, including deduplication, missing value handling, and column standardization. Since the team lacks Spark or Python expertise, DataBrew's visual recipe builder is ideal. Recipe jobs can be scheduled to run automatically and output clean data to S3 for subsequent loading into Redshift. Lambda with Pandas requires coding expertise and has memory and timeout limitations for large datasets. EMR with Spark requires significant technical expertise and operational management. Athena CTAS works for SQL-based transformations, but lacks the comprehensive data cleaning capabilities of DataBrew and requires SQL knowledge. Question 8. A Datum Retail has a Glue ETL job that reads transactional data from a JDBC source, Amazon RDS PostgreSQL, and writes to Amazon S3 in Parquet format. The job runs every hour using job bookmarks to process only new records. After a recent code update, the data engineer changed the transformation CTX parameter name for the JDBC source dynamic frame. The next job run reprocessed the entire source table, causing duplicate records in S3. What caused this issue and how should the data engineer prevent it in the future? Select 1. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option D. AWS Glue uses the transformation CTX parameter as the key to index bookmark state for each source in the ETL script. When the transformation CTX name is changed, Glue cannot locate the previous bookmark state and treats the source as if no data has been processed, causing a full reprocessing of the table. The data engineer must keep the transformation CTX parameter consistent across code updates to maintain bookmark continuity. Resetting the bookmark would make the problem worse by explicitly clearing all state. JDBC sources are fully supported by job bookmarks as long as bookmark keys are monotonically increasing or decreasing. Using timestamp filters would work, but adds unnecessary complexity when job bookmarks are properly configured. Question 9. Tailspin Logistics has a DynamoDB table with DynamoDB streams enabled new and old IMAGES view type. A Lambda function processes stream records to update a search index. The team discovers that the search index is not being updated for some items that have expired through TTL. What is the most likely cause? Select 1. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option C. DynamoDB TTL deletions do generate stream records, but they have a distinct system identity as the event source rather than a user principal. The stream records user identity field contains a principlet of dynamodb.amazonos.com with type service. If the Lambda function filters events based on the identity of who performed the deletion, it may skip TTL-generated deletions because they appear with a service principal rather than an application user. The function needs to handle records with user identity type of service to process TTL expirations. TTL deletions do produce stream records, so the first option is factually incorrect. Batch window configuration affects batching timing, but does not selectively drop specific record types. DynamoDB streams permissions are granted uniformly and do not differentiate between TTL-generated and user-generated stream records. Question 10. Northwind Technologies has an Amazon Aurora PostgreSQL database that serves as the backend for a customer-facing application. The development team deployed 50 AWS Lambda functions that connect directly to the database. During peak traffic, the database reaches its maximum connection limit of 1,000 connections, causing new Lambda invocations to fail with connection timeout errors. Which solution addresses this issue with the licensed application code changes? Select one, review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option C. Amazon RDS proxy sits between Lambda functions and the Aurora database, maintaining a persistent connection pool. Lambda functions connect to RDS proxy instead of directly to the database, and RDS proxy multiplexes these connections over a smaller set of database connections. This is API compatible. The only change needed is updating the database endpoint in the Lambda configuration, requiring minimal code changes. RDS proxy also provides up to 66% faster failover. Increasing the instance size has physical limits on maximum connections and does not solve the fundamental problem of Lambda's ephemeral nature, creating excessive connections. Connection pooling within Lambda functions does not work effectively because each Lambda invocation may run in a separate execution environment, and connections stored in /tmp cannot be shared across invocations. Aurora Serverless VTWO scales compute capacity, but does not inherently solve connection pooling. It still has connection limits and would require the same connection management approach. Question 11. Fabricam Retail uses AWS Glue DataBrew for data preparation across multiple business units. Data analysts need to validate that incoming product catalog datasets meet quality standards before they enter the ETL pipeline. The analysts are non-technical and cannot write code, which approach allows the analysts to automate data quality validation with the least operational effort. Select one, review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option C. Glue DataBrew supports data quality rule sets that can be attached to profiling jobs, enabling automated quality checks each time the profile runs without any code. This is the least operational effort for non-technical analysts since DataBrew is a no-code visual tool. Creating a recipe with filter transformations handles data cleaning, but does not perform validation and reporting of quality metrics. Writing a custom Lambda function requires coding, which contradicts the non-technical requirement. Glue data quality with DQDL is powerful but requires working within the Glue ETL environment, which is code-oriented and not designed for non-technical users. Question 12. Litware Corp uses Amazon S3 for their data lake with SSC KMS encryption. A partner organization in a different AWS account needs to read objects from this bucket. The data engineer discovers that the partner account receives access denied errors despite having an S3 bucket policy granting S3 get object. What is the most likely cause and resolution? Select one, review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option A. When S3 objects are encrypted with SSC KMS using the default AWS-managed key, AWS/S3, the key policy cannot be modified to grant cross-account access. The partner account cannot decrypt the objects even with S3 get object permission because they lack KMS decrypt on the encryption key. The solution is to re-encrypt objects using a customer-managed KMS key and explicitly grant the partner account KMS decrypt permission in the key policy. S3 transfer acceleration is a performance optimization feature unrelated to access permissions. VPC endpoint conditions are optional and would further restrict access, not resolve the existing denial. S3 block public access prevents anonymous/public access, but does not block authenticated cross-account access granted through bucket policies. Question 13. A data engineer at Contoso Corp needs to orchestrate a complex data pipeline that involves running an Oz Glue crawler, followed by a Glue ETL job, then launching an Amazon EMR cluster for advanced Spark processing, and finally triggering an Amazon Redshift copy command. The pipeline must include error handling with retries and conditional branching. Which orchestration service should the data engineer use? Select one. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option B. AWS Step Functions provides native integration with over 200 Oz services including Glue, EMR, and Redshift. The Run a Job Sync pattern allows step functions to wait for each service to complete before proceeding. Built-in error handling supports retry with configurable backoff and catch for fallback states, and choice states enable conditional branching. Glue workflows can orchestrate Glue crawlers and ETL jobs, but cannot natively launch EMR clusters or trigger Redshift copy commands. MWAA provides similar capabilities, but requires managing Airflow infrastructure, custom DAG code, and VPC configuration with NAT gateways, adding significant operational overhead. EventBridge rules do not natively support sequential workflow orchestration with wait-for-completion semantics or built-in retry logic. Question 14. Tailspin Analytics runs an Amazon Redshift serverless workgroup for ad hoc queries. The team notices that a single complex analytical query frequently runs for over 30 minutes, consuming excessive RPUs and degrading performance for other users running simpler queries. The data engineer needs to prevent long-running queries from monopolizing compute resources while allowing short queries to complete normally. Which approach should the data engineer implement in the Redshift serverless workgroup? Select one. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option B. Query monitoring rules, QMRs, are the correct approach for controlling query resource consumption in Redshift serverless. QMRs allow administrators to define metrics-based predicates such as query execution time thresholds and automatically abort or log queries that exceed those boundaries. Redshift serverless also supports queue-based QMR, enabling dedicated query queues with distinct monitoring rules for different workloads, such as reporting versus ad hoc analysis. Manual WLM configuration with concurrency slots, memory allocation percentages, and short query acceleration is not supported in Redshift serverless. These features are exclusive to provisioned Redshift clusters. Concurrency scaling adds temporary compute for burst-read workloads, but does not prevent an individual query from consuming excessive resources within the workgroup. Result caching only benefits repeated identical queries and does not address the core problem of a single long-running query monopolizing compute resources. Question 15. Adatum Logistics uses Amazon SQS to decouple their order processing system. Orders must be processed in strict first-in, first-out order per customer, and each order must be processed exactly once. The system handles approximately 25 zero orders per second across 500 unique customers. The solution must minimize operational overhead, which SQS configuration meets these requirements. Select one. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option A. SQS FIFO queues guarantee strict ordering within each message group and exactly once processing through built-in deduplication. Setting the message group ID to the customer ID ensures orders for the same customer are processed in sequence while allowing parallel processing across different customers. Content-based deduplication uses a sh-200 and 56 hash of the message body to prevent duplicate deliveries within a 5-minute deduplication window. With high-throughput mode enabled, FIFO queues in top-tier regions such as US East End, Virginia, support up to 70,000 transactions per second per API action without batching, and up to 700,000 messages per second with batching, far exceeding the 25,000 orders per second requirement. Standard queues provide at least once delivery and best effort ordering, meaning neither deduplication IDS nor application-level ordering logic can fully guarantee per customer FIFO and exactly once semantics without significant custom development. Using DynamoDB for deduplication tracking adds operational complexity and latency. Using a single message group ID would serialize all 25,000 orders into one processing sequence, creating a severe bottleneck since only one consumer can process messages from a single message group at a time, defeating the purpose of per customer ordering. Question 16. Northwind Retail uses AWS Glue DataBrew to prepare marketing campaign data stored in Amazon S3. Business analysts need to validate data quality, identify missing values, and standardize date formats across 15 CSV files before loading into Amazon Redshift. The analysts have no coding experience. Which approach should the data engineer recommend to meet these requirements with the least operational effort? Select one. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option B. AWS Glue DataBrew is the ideal solution for non-technical users because it provides a visual, no-code interface with 250+ built-in transformations and data profiling capabilities. Profile jobs identify missing values, outliers, and data distribution issues, while recipes define reusable transformation steps like date standardization and null handling. Writing custom Glue ETL jobs in PySpark requires coding expertise that the analysts do not have. Athena CTAS queries require SQL knowledge and do not provide interactive data profiling. EMR with Jupyter notebooks requires significant technical skill and cluster management overhead. Question 17. A data engineer at Northwind Technologies uses Amazon Athena to query a large dataset stored in CSV format on Amazon S3. The dataset is 500 GB, and queries typically scan the entire dataset, resulting in high costs. The data engineer needs to reduce Athena query costs by at least 90% without changing the existing query logic. Which combination of actions should the data engineer take? Select 2. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answers are option A and option B. Converting CSV to Parquet provides columnar storage with built-in compression, reducing the data scan by Athena by up to 95%, since Athena only reads the columns referenced in queries rather than entire rows. Partitioning by frequently filtered columns allows Athena to skip irrelevant partitions entirely, further reducing scan data. The combination of columnar format conversion and partitioning can easily achieve over 90% cost reduction since Athena charges $5 per TB scan. Athena result caching avoids rescanning for identical queries, but does not help with unique or modified queries. Switching to Redshift Spectrum requires a Redshift cluster, adding infrastructure costs and operational complexity. Compressing CSV with gzip reduces file size, but Athena must still decompress and scan entire rows, providing far less savings than columnar format conversion. Question 18. A large retail company has a sales table with billions of rows and a smaller products table. Reports frequently join these two tables, causing slower than expected query performance in Amazon Redshift. Which distribution style configuration optimizes join performance? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option C. Distributing the large sales table using key on the product ID column places rows with the same product ID on the same node. Applying all distribution to the small products table replicates every row on every node. When these tables are joined on product ID, Redshift can perform a local join on each node without any data movement across the network, which is the primary source of join latency. Even distribution spreads rows without regard to join patterns, causing cross-node data movement during every join. All distribution for both tables would replicate the massive sales table on every node, consuming enormous storage and degrading load and update performance. Key distribution on both tables using their respective columns does not guarantee co-location of matching rows unless the distribution keys are equivalent values, and it misses the opportunity to fully co-locate the small table. Question 19. Fabricam Genomics stores sequencing data in Amazon S3 with SSC KMS encryption using a customer-managed KMS key. A research partner in a different AWS account needs to read specific objects from the bucket for a collaborative project. The data engineer has added a bucket policy granting the partner account S3 getObject permissions. However, the partner still receives access denied errors when attempting to read objects. Which additional configuration is required to enable cross-account access? Select 2, review the answer choices on screen. The correct answers are option A and option C. Cross-account access to SSC KMS encrypted objects requires 2 additional configurations beyond the bucket policy. First, the KMS key policy must explicitly grant the partner account's IAM role KMS decrypt permission, because the partner needs to decrypt the data key used to encrypt the objects. Second, cross-account S3 access requires authorization from both sides. The resource owner bucket policy, already configured, and the accessing account IAM policy granting the partner role permission to access the bucket. SSC KMS does support cross-account access when the KMS key policy is properly configured. Switching to SSCS3 is unnecessary. Bucket owner enforced controls object ownership, not KMS permissions. Access points are an alternative access method, but do not solve the underlying KMS and IAM permission requirements. Question 20. A data engineer at Litware Corp needs to set up cross-account access to an S3 data lake governed by AWS Lake Formation. The data lake is an Account A producer, and the analytics team in Account B consumer needs to query specific tables using Athena. The data lake has hundreds of tables across dozens of databases. Which approach provides the most scalable permission management? Select 1, review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option B. LFTAGs, tag-based access control, provide the most scalable approach for large environments with hundreds of tables. By assigning LFTAGs representing business domains to databases and tables, and granting permissions using tag expressions, the number of permission grants scales linearly n principals plus n resources, rather than multiplicatively n principals times n resources, as with the named resource method. Cross-account sharing via OSRAM integrates natively with LFTAGs. The named resource method requires individual grants per table, which becomes unmanageable at scale with hundreds of tables. Bypassing lake formation with S3 bucket policies removes fine-grained governance capabilities and does not integrate with the Glue data catalog. Exporting the catalog via Glue resource policies does not provide lake formation's fine-grained access controls and creates data governance gaps. That is the end of practice exam number 19. Review the questions you missed, then come back for the next batch.